everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about confidentiality. I'm not meant to talk about it. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this in today's video is because in my experience as a service user, I didn't quite get confidentiality. I really didn't quite understand that. So what I wanted to do is to talk about it in a video so that, you know, if anybody just so happens to stumble across a video or wonder about confidentiality when you're seeing a mental health professional, I've talked about it and maybe it might help somebody else because it took me years. So that's today's video. As a service user, and I've talked about this on my channel before, like I have spent 15 years or so in and out of therapy. I've been around different counsellors, different types of therapists in different situations, and I literally did not understand confidentiality until probably the last 3 years. And I really, really think that having an understanding of confidentiality in a kind of therapeutic setting can make such a massive difference to therapeutic outcomes. And that also depends on what type of therapy you are getting, but I think it's relevant regardless. So first off, let me just tell you about myself. So I'm currently a trainee counsellor and a trainee psychologist. So I'm studying to be a counsellor and I'm studying to be a psychologist. I have my own personal experience as a service user of mental health processes and systems. So that's my credentials. Now, I don't use my YouTube channel to advise anyone. I cannot offer you personal advice because that would not be ethical. But I can talk about concepts and I can very generally discuss things and I can change perspectives because that's just my opinion. That's just my point of view. I'm not giving you personal advice. So got that bit out of the way. Now to talk about confidentiality. Now, when you are working with an individual, either, counselling or anything really, there are certain things around confidentiality that we know and we kind of communicate with you, but as a service user, they never landed right and I didn't really understand it. So I wanted to explain that. Now, I'm talking about in this country. So usually in England, if you visit a mental health professional, they will tell you the rules around confidentiality and the agreement around confidentiality. Now, if they do not, ask them because they should tell you. But I mean, we're human, we can forget sometimes. So ask them about confidentiality. If you're not sure about stuff, ask them. If you're going to say something and you're not quite sure if it will be kept confidential, ask them. So we want you to feel as comfortable as possible and as secure as possible so that we can have the best therapeutic relationship and help you the most that we possibly can. So always ask questions if you are not sure, if you're not 100%. I wish that I had asked questions. Now, usually what a mental health professional will say to you is that everything that you say to me is confidential unless there is a significant risk of harm to you or to somebody else. That's like the general consensus of confidentiality. I didn't really understand what that meant because for me, there's but there's still stuff I can't talk to you about, right? But there's still stuff that if I talk to you about, you'd think I was crazy. There's those things though that I obviously can't bring those up. So what I would say is, and this is the secret source of incredible therapeutic outcomes for people, as a counsellor, if you can make someone feel safe enough in your relationship with them to go into that stuff that they've kept locked in, the stuff that they think is not good enough, the stuff that's shameful, if you can help someone to feel so safe that they can talk about that stuff and not be seen as crazy and not be judged and not have this massive negative outcome, if they can just be held and still supported and know that it's okay, that's where the A-star grade, 10 out of 10 level help really is. Now, most of us, I think, are weighed down with stuff that we hold on to that we just don't go there. You know, there's stuff that we lock away, that we're never going to talk about, that we're absolutely not going to go into. Most of the reason why is because we are so terrified of what somebody else will think of us if we talk about this stuff. Now, I'm talking about things like, for example, the amount of parents that during this pandemic have sat opposite me, been struggling so much with homeschooling, children's mental health, their own mental health, everything that's happened this year. And the amount of parents that have sat opposite me and said, I am not sure if this was the right path for me. And when you dig into actually what's going on, and when you give them the space to explore that more, we get to, I regret having children. And this has actually come up before on my Changing Perspectives series, which if you haven't checked out my Changing Perspectives series, please do. It has fallen off the bandwagon a little bit. I've only done 2 episodes so far, and I was hoping to do like an episode a month where I kind of, in an anonymous and confidential way, change perspectives around an issue. And this came up actually with someone who posted in for that series around regretting having children. Now, there is so much stigma, so much taboo, and so much shame that comes with admitting, oh my God, I don't know if this was the right choice for me. And the amount of parents that during the pandemic have said to me, I don't know if this was the right thing. Now, imagine holding that in, thinking, oh my God, I don't know if this is the right thing for me, feeling all the shame, feeling all the taboo, feeling all the stigma. And then when you are brave and when you feel safe and when you can voice that to somebody else and say, this is how I feel, and that person says, I hear you, tell me about it, you know, let that go, basically. That's what therapy is. Therapy is, if you feel safe and comfortable to do so, share with me. I'm here for you and I want to help you. But for me, as a service user, the amount of times that I sat with a counsellor and just thought, I can't tell you that, I can't tell you that, I can't go into that, you will judge me for all of these things. And all of those things are not acceptable. And I think I didn't really understand confidentiality and what that meant. Now, you can sit with a therapist, with a counsellor, you can tell them that you think that the sky is purple and that you're a unicorn, and they can't do anything with that. They can't go and write to someone and say, I think this person is seeing things that aren't there and believes that they're a unicorn. Now, what they can do is they can turn around and say, this may be beyond my expertise, and what I would like to do is to involve this agency. They will then involve you. If they have to write anything about you, you will be involved in anything to do with that. The important thing in counselling is empowering you. The counsellor in the room is not the expert on your care. You are, because it is your care and you are a person and you have rights. And I wish I'd known sooner that I could actually share myself with a counsellor and it was safe to do so, and they weren't going to go running off to someone and get me committed to a mental hospital or something. Because some of the stuff that I've experienced in my life was a level where I thought, oh my God, if I tell someone about that, what happens? You know, like, what is the repercussions? And especially, you know, I'm a 30-year-old woman. There are people who are perhaps older than me that remember times when asylums were still around and people did get committed. Being sectioned within a hospital, that's not talked about. There is stigma around that. And having not worked in that environment myself, that's not something that I really feel like I can comment on. But what I would say is that in a therapeutic environment, everything that you say should remain confidential unless the therapist believes that you're at significant risk of harm or somebody else is at significant risk of harm. And then, even then, it would be with a conversation with you, talking about who else would get involved and how else that might be managed. The only other situation where that could result in friction would be if the therapist believes that that's out of their realm of capability, and something that you've brought up is kind of beyond them, and there are other people who are best placed to support you, but it is always about supporting you and helping you. And I guess I wanted to get across, like, trust me when I say this, the amount of stuff that a counsellor or a therapist hears on a day-to-day basis. Like, I understand that some stuff is massive and it feels so big to hold on to. We get told everything, you know, like the stuff that we hear. And there's no like perfect way to be and exist in the world, and however you feel, that is okay. And if you can share how you feel, if you feel safe and comfortable to do so, you may be able to experience better outcomes. If you cannot share where you are, then you'll stay stuck in that and you won't be able to experience alternative ways of being. So like I said, being able to communicate with someone and someone hearing you and seeing that and maybe helping you, that's possible if you can share where you are. So with this video, what I wanted to do was to kind of talk a bit more about confidentiality from this side, because I've been the service user and I know how it's almost like there's the script that they say about confidentiality and it feels like they're just reading off a script, and you don't really, or I certainly did not feel and really understand what that meant. And it's really been when I have felt safe and comfortable enough to actually go into my stuff that the therapeutic outcomes for me have been so life-changing and massive. And I mean that as someone who went from attempting suicide 3 years ago and feeling like there was nothing in my life worth living for, to where I am now, which is last week I cried because of how different my life is and how wonderful my life is, the people that I have in it, the way that my life is something that I never ever thought in a million years I could dream of. And a large amount of that has come from feeling safe to explore who I am, and that's something that I wouldn't have found possible had I not felt safe within the therapeutic relationship that I had at the time with my counsellor. And that bleeds into other stuff as well, like you just, you know. So yeah, today's video, I hope that's been helpful. If it has, let me know. I like hearing from you. I don't hear from you guys enough. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you really want. I talk about mental health and I sometimes eat vegan food. It would mean a lot to me if you did. But regardless of that, there's never any pressure. I hope wherever you are, you're keeping safe and well. I hope you're loving the kids being back at school, because I am. And I will catch you guys in the next video.